Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a highly relatable and honestly, often super stress-inducing scenario that I guarantee almost every single one of you has experienced. And we're going to reveal a pretty profound life lesson that's hidden right underneath it. We're looking at the fascinating dynamics of generational communication. Specifically, we're zeroing in on that intense friction that happens when a younger person tries to teach something totally new to an older person. If you've ever walked away from one of these interactions just literally pulling your hair out, well, you are definitely going to want to pay close attention to the insights we're exploring today. So let's just start right here. Why does teaching technology to an elder almost always seem to end in a massive argument? Picture the same, right? You're just trying to show an older relative how to use a new smartphone, or maybe a new app, or a laptop. And within minutes, the elder gets flustered, maybe they even get angry or completely dismissive. You, in turn, get incredibly frustrated. It is a classic clash. But what if I told you that the conventional wisdom around this whole scenario is actually entirely backwards? All right, let's get into section 1, the clash of generations and the fault in our approach. Okay, so the core twist of our explainer today is this. If the elder is upset and defensive, it is actually not their fault. I know, shocking, right? The real culprit here is what the source material calls the empathy gap in generational learning. To truly understand this clash, we have to look really closely at the wildly different environments that shaped these two generations. We aren't just dealing with a simple lack of technical knowledge here. We are dealing with two entirely different operating systems for experiencing the world. Think about the elders' background for a second. They grew up mastering physical manual labor. They learned by doing things with their hands, washing dishes, doing chores, physically fixing broken things. And when you wash a dish, you get immediate, tactile feedback. It's clean, it squeaks, the job is physically done, you can feel it. The youth, however, well, we have a digital-first mindset. We're entirely used to tapping a piece of glass and getting instantaneous results without any real physical exertion. We totally lack manual patience, but we absolutely thrive in the digital ether. Which brings us to a really fascinating realization from the source text. Elders have no patience for typing, because they want quick results without effort. Now hold on. This doesn't mean they are lazy. Actually, it's far from it. It means that because digital tasks lack that tactile, physical feedback and rhythm they're so used to, they easily become impatient. They literally can't feel the work happening in the same way they could when, say, scrubbing a pot. So they just want the result immediately. And when it doesn't happen instantly, that's when the frustration bubbles over. Moving on to section 2, the right way to teach and how we actually go about bridging that gap. So, if our current method is causing all this friction, how do we fix it? Well, the first rule is incredibly simple. Stop teaching. Or actually, scratch that. Stop lecturing. Instead of arrogantly diving right into a step-by-step tutorial that they honestly didn't even ask for, you must first have a conversation. You need to start a dialogue to discover what the elder actually wants to achieve. This is all about finding the keyword. What is their actual underlying goal? Do they just want to send photos to a grandchild? Do they just want to read the morning news? Find that keyword first and literally discard everything else. Once you have that keyword, you use this brilliant psychological timeline. First, obviously, you find the keyword. Second, you manage their expectations by honestly explaining that it will take about 1 month of practice for this new skill to become muscle memory. But let's be real, a month sounds super intimidating, right? So step 3, you break it down into a 10-day goal. And to make it even more accessible, step 4, you ask them to just try it for 3 days and then come back to you with any questions. By chunking the task down like this, you completely remove the elder's anxiety. You build their confidence up because, well, 3 days feels entirely manageable to anyone. But what if they still push back? What if they still demand that you just do it for them, or they get frustrated that it's taking way too long? The solution here is that you must politely, but very firmly, set a boundary. Tell them, nothing happens quickly without effort. If you want to achieve anything in this world, even in the digital space, it requires dedicated time and effort. By stating this calmly and plainly, you prevent the elder from directing their own impatience at you. All right, let's dive into section 3. Annoyance means lack of skill. Now we are shifting to a cognitive reappraisal, specifically looking at why we get so easily annoyed. And prepare yourself because this is a pretty harsh reality check from the material. The annoyance you feel is exactly your own fault returning to you. Just let that sink in for a second. The frustration you feel when an elder isn't learning isn't because they are a terrible student. It's actually a mirror reflecting your own lack of skill and empathy as a teacher. So, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding exactly why this clash is on you. It basically comes down to three things. First, arrogantly trying to teach without any sort of structured method. Second, lacking empathy for that analog background we discussed earlier. And third, completely failing to honestly admit your own inability to teach. Think about it. If you had simply been honest from the very start, if you had just said, hey, I'm actually not very good at explaining this, but let's figure it out together, the elder's defensiveness and that whole resulting argument would probably never have happened.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Communication, the key to life success.
Now, let's zoom out from the micro level of teaching someone how to use an iPad to a much bigger, macro level philosophy. This isn't just about technology anymore. It's about social energy and fundamental respect. Elders possess a greater societal energy and influence. Their perception of you, based entirely on how you communicate with them, can literally dictate the trajectory of your life. They hold the invisible keys to opening or closing your paths. The real-world stakes here are actually pretty severe. If you clash with elders, if you arrogantly dismiss them or treat them with impatience, those elders will speak poorly of your character and your lack of manners behind your back. And in this philosophical framework, this negative perception blocks your personal energy. Suddenly, you might find that your life, your creative projects, your career paths, they just mysteriously stall out. And you probably won't even realize it all tracks back to how you treated the older generation. The brutal truth presented here is that no matter how much formal education you have, or how much raw, youthful talent you happen to possess, true power and momentum are only unlocked when an elder decides to pull you upward. You simply cannot climb the highest mountains of success entirely on your own. You absolutely need the endorsement, the wisdom, and the network of those who came before you. And this brings us to a really powerful definition of true success, the elite. Now, the elite is not defined by money or technical skills. The elite is a person who communicates with impeccable respect and politeness to elders, to friends, and to juniors alike. By mastering this cross-generational communication, they keep all of their life paths wide open. Everything they touch just seems to work out because they have the genuine support of the community's energy right behind them. Which leaves us with a final, really provocative thought to take away from today's explainer. Is your lack of communication with elders, that impatience, that arrogance, that complete failure to bridge the empathy gap, is that the hidden reason your own life feels a bit stuck right now? It's a hugely powerful framework to reflect on. Maybe the roadblock in your career isn't a lack of talent at all, but a missing education in respect and patience. Thank you so much for joining me as we unpack this fascinating material today. Take this mindset into your very next interaction and just see how it shifts your world. Catch you next time.